Good evening. I'd like to call the March 15, 2021 University Heights City Council to order. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Here.
Mrs. Pardee,
Here.
Mrs. Weiss,
Here.
Mr. Ertl, Mr. Rock,
Here.
Mr. Gould.
Here.
Is there a motion to excuse Mrs. Berry and Mr. Ertl?
So moved, Mayor.
So moved.
Very
Second.
good. Motion by Mr. Rock, second by Mr. Gould. Any discussion? Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Ertl, Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Those members are excused. Will all those who are able please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would note for the record, it appears Mr. Ertl has now joined us. So welcome, Mr. Ertl. Next item is approval.
Mrs. Berry.
And Mrs. Berry as well? Wonderful. Yes, I do see Mrs. Berry. Very good.
It had me in the waiting room.
Oh, that happens. That happens. All right. Next item is minutes. I would ask for a motion to table the minutes for March 1, 2021. There are a few items I did not get to, Mrs. Thomas in time for these minutes.
I'll make that motion, Mayor, to table minutes.
Thank you, Mrs. Purdy. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Ertl,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. The minutes are tabled. Next item on the agenda is comments from the audience. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Total time allowed 15 minutes per meeting unless otherwise permitted by council. Ordinance 91-25. Is there anybody here this evening who would care to address the city? If so, if you would please raise your hand. I will call on you. When I do, I would ask that you state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 5 minutes to speak. I saw Mr. Wachter raised his hand, so I will start there. Mr. Wachter, you have the floor for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it. Scott Wachter, 2224 Edgerton Road. Let me get over here to what I want to read, please. I'm asking that University Heights consider to double our community's swimming pools this year. It would not be with any major expense, if any at all. But by combining pools between Cumberland and Purvis, it could be a real benefit, I think, for the entire community. Both Cumberland and Purvis have great amenities that everybody can enjoy. The Cumberland pool typically sponsors a synchronized swimming team, whereas the Purvis pool has a 3-meter and a 1-meter diving board, which can be a real pleasant, a real nice challenge for a diving team. Lap swimmers can use the Cumberland pool and or the Purvis pool. And it could also maybe raise, if we combine the swimming teams between Cumberland and Purvis or Cleveland Heights and University Heights, it could also help with maybe raising the level of competition for that team as well. There are economic benefits. More people will be apt to purchase pool passes, And, because Cumberland right now looks like it's going to have a staggered opening times, closing times, maybe that can coincide with Purvis opening and closing times so people could have access throughout the day. For those who prefer the single sex swim nights, that could be actually have more availability throughout the week. It could maybe be a Sunday through a Wednesday, maybe Sunday through a Thursday. And that way, if rain does occur or there's other inclement weather, it could be it wouldn't be necessarily the downer for the whole week. So I just wanted to share this. I think there could be a lot of positive aspects to this, and I hope it's considered as we start looking into what the summer brings ahead. There was a petition that went out for this. About 190 people signed a petition stating they were very, very interested in such a proposal. And don't forget that we also share an indoor pool between the communities at Heights, which seems to work out very well. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Wachter. I do want to address this point. In the long view, I appreciate much of what you're saying. I could see that there would be benefits in the long term to some sort of reciprocal arrangement. This year, I'm just trying to get the pool open for our residents, period. So it is highly unlikely that we would see anything as you're describing in 2021. That said, I would be hopeful to see something beyond that. I would be open to discussing that further if there's a call for it in the community.
Appreciate the consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming here tonight and sharing your point of view on it. Okay. The good news, though, is that we do hope to open the pool, and I fully expect that we will.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I think I saw Colin Derrick raise his hand. Mr. Derrick, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of John Carroll Student Government once again. Nice to see you again, Mr. Mayor, and nice to see you again, Council. Just to reintroduce the John Carroll Student Government Community Relations and Service Committee as we try to represent student issues to University Heights as a whole. And I would just like to thank you for letting us speak here tonight. And I'd like to introduce my committee here now, as well as my co-chair, Student Government Senator Max Maley, who is a freshman here at John Carroll University, who will be taking over as full chair permanently this fall and working with the city in any regards of cooperation between University Heights and the John Carroll student body. So I just wanted to introduce the rest of my committee, Senator Maggie Paul, Senator Thomas Keene, Peyton Miozzi, and Nick Hazelwood, and thank them for being here tonight alongside us. And I'd just like to say that I look forward to working with University Heights this semester in any way that we end up working with you. And with that, I want to just let my co-chair, Senator Maley, introduce himself. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Maley.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And Council, thank you for being here tonight. Colin, thanks for that introduction. So yeah, our committee is very proud to go in new directions this term. So things that we're working on are starting the development of a Big Brother, Big Sister program, where John Carroll students would have the opportunity to work on one-on-one with students from a local area middle school. We're in the very early stages of reaching out to potential school partners, and we believe that perhaps a school in the Cleveland Heights, University Heights Combined School District may be a viable choice. So another mission that this committee has undertaken is promoting mental health on campus. So we believe that in a time where students oftentimes feel lonelier and less connected than ever because of COVID, mental health awareness is more important than ever now. So this committee will also be working hand in hand with our university's sustainability committee to promote long-lasting recycling habits. And we think that this will be very beneficial to the community at large too. So yeah, regardless of what this committee accomplishes this semester, we're committed to strengthening the relationship between the John Carroll student body and University Heights. Everything we do in this committee will be for this vibrant, great community. So without University Heights, there would be no John Carroll University and vice versa. The city is the home base of our institution, and that will never be forgotten. So on behalf of John Carroll student body and the John Carroll Community Relations and Service Committee, we are pleased to introduce ourselves once again and work alongside our sister community of University Heights. So thanks a lot for hearing us out tonight. I appreciate it.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Malley. When I was an undergraduate, I myself got involved, at least somewhat, in local government and attended a few city council meetings out in Bowling Green, not here in University Heights. But I certainly welcome your presence, your input, and working together. There are certainly things of mutual interest, and I'm everybody's mayor, and that includes the mayor of all the students at John Carroll University. So anything I can do for you, please do not hesitate to give me a call or send me an email, and happy to talk at any time. And certainly you're welcome at city council meetings, you, everyone on the committee, everyone at John Carroll. So thank you for being here. Is there anybody else who'd care to address the city this evening? Just look around. It looks like we have a couple of pages here. All right. I'm not seeing anybody else raising their hand. So unless there is anybody else, I will go ahead and close public comments and move on then to reports and communications from the mayor and the taking of action. The state of the city address is okay, very good. I dropped out of the meeting there briefly.
I dropped off too.
Yeah, I got a text from Chief Turco that I was frozen, and I can tell you that from my point of view, I just had the spinning thing and had to wait. So
I got kicked out too, so.
all right, well then it seems like it was all fairly disrupted. I'll just start over. I don't think I got very far. The State of the City address is this Thursday, March 18th at 7 p.m. It will be streaming online. I understand we all get Zoom fatigue, so while there will be some essential points, I will try to keep it under 2 hours. Okay. All right, I can't blame technical difficulties on that one. All right, so following the last city council meeting, we negotiated the addendum to the agreement with SafeBuilt regarding citizen serve implementation. We finalized the agreement, and SafeBuilt has officially begun with the city as of Thursday, March 4th, 2021. And as of that date, Fred White became the city's chief building official. Tom Cook also started on that day, part-time at first, and then full-time 40 hours a week as of this afternoon, serving in a temporary dual capacity as both a permitting admin and a building inspector, as he has certifications and cross-training in both. As SafeBuilt is coming in on short notice, they are still assembling the team that ultimately will be staffing our building department, which has led to a bumpier transition than they or we would care for or be accustomed to. So since the 4th, phone calls have not been returned as quickly as we normally would have or will have. Daniel Roach and intern Aidan Keenan are both working on the housing side while we accept applications for a new director of housing and community development. Mr. Roach is acting as a temporary housing admin while SafeBuilt assembles their team, which will include a housing admin, though the rest of their team will focus on a more traditional building department functions. As this is more traditionally a slow season in the building department, now is about as ideal a time as it gets to have a few transitional growing pains. Still, if you're aware of any residents who have been waiting for a return call, a permit, or some document from the departments, we simply ask that you be patient, and we will be getting with you shortly. Last week, Congress passed and President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act. University Heights is projected to receive just over $2.5 million in federal aid. This will be dispersed in 2 tranches, half in the next 30 to 60 days and the other half in a year. Administration is analyzing the options, and we will have recommendations for how to best apply that money to the benefit of our community. The Planning Commission will be holding a special meeting on Tuesday, March 23rd at 7 p.m. We held a meeting on March 4th that went 3 hours and 15 minutes, resulting in a tabling of the application. We received a lot of emails and phone calls expressing dismay that we ended the meeting without a decision or deliberation. Commission members have expressed a desire to deliberate, and in order to do that as a group, we have announced the special meeting. In announcing the meeting, I provided a message to all people who emailed, sending it also to the commission members and to city council members as follows, so I will read it for the record. With so many emails and letters on the issue of the application for a special use permit at 2343 Miramar Boulevard, I have prepared this response. Often, when applicants come before the Planning Commission, they have first conferred with city administration and sought our input and support. In those situations, we will work with an applicant to help them develop their application to make the best case for their proposal. We work with those applicants to the extent that their proposal fits into the city's zoning and master plan and the administration's overall goals for improving our city, while also raising concerns where they may exist and try to work them out. None of this occurred here with respect to the special use permit application for 2343 Miramar Boulevard, presently before the Planning Commission. To be clear, the administration does not endorse or support the application. Instead, this application was made after the city sent a cease and desist letter to the applicant in response to his widely circulated invitation announcing the opening of a shul. Notwithstanding the above, an applicant is under no obligation to seek pre-administrative review of their application before filing it. As mayor, I also chair the Planning Commission. I have sought to conduct the proceedings fairly. I am cognizant that if the commission rejects the application, it may be appealed. Accordingly, I've sought to create a proper record for review under Ohio Revised Code 2506.01 et sec. Without a proper record, an appeal could result in a hearing de novo, meaning that the applicant would then get to make their case anew before the court. I'd rather that any reviewing court confine its review to our transcript and the documents presented to Planning Commission. That a court review the factors as testified to and that we considered with respect to Chapter 1274 of our local ordinances. That a court review only what was presented before us, rather than to allow an applicant a second bite at the apple and possibly bring up matters to the court that the city did not hear and thus could not consider. This may result in a court substituting its judgment for our own. Providing time to the applicant to make his case and to cross-examine witnesses is done with all of this in mind. It does take more time on the onset, and in the long view, this is time spent purposefully. As to your email and others like it, I understand what you are saying, and I will add this. Changes in how we plan our neighborhoods should be discussed in public and made as a group, rather than lone people acting unilaterally to build out and change their homes, claiming at the time a residential purpose, and seemingly concealing until later another intended use. There may be a call for more and different uses as we modernize and update our zoning and allow for additional purposes, especially as we rethink how we live and work in our homes. Relating to this, we have a zoning code update planned that will have public input as an essential element to the process. We seek to preserve the best of what University Heights is while positioning the city to make it more of what University Heights could yet be. As to the applicant before us, to his credit, he has participated in the process. We are providing him a fair hearing and due consideration. Simultaneously, we have provided all residents the opportunity to provide input relevant to the elements to be considered in granting a special use permit. We heard from many residents. Not all comments were on point to the application, though many were, and that will be considered. At the last meeting, I voted against the motion to table because I thought that at least some deliberation was in order for that evening, even if it made for a longer evening. The community, which includes this applicant, deserves a thoughtful and prompt decision on this matter. Not wanting to delay till next month, I have called a special meeting of the Planning Commission for March 23rd at 7 p.m. Information on that is below. Thank you for your email. I endeavor to be everyone's mayor. I know there are a lot of strong feelings and deeply considered thoughts on this issue. Please know I seek to apply the law and standards here fairly and to the benefit of the whole community. I believe every commission member will seek to do the same. Everyone who lives here expects and deserves nothing less. Thank you. This concludes my report. First item on the agenda is item A, ordinance 2021-10, authorizing the transfer of funds from the general fund 100 to the payroll stabilization fund to 299, facility capital improvement fund 411, and the community improvement corp 800, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Kennedy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. These three transfers were contemplated in the budget. The largest transfer for $100,000 is what we talked about to establish a foothold for new facilities improvement fund. There's two other transfers. One is an annual transfer to the CIC in the amount of $25,000, and the other is a transfer to the payroll stabilization fund in the amount of $26,000. That fund is used to accrue resources. So once every 11 years, when we had the extra pay period like we did last year, the money will be there without putting any kind of additional burden in that year on the general fund. So those three were all contemplated and included in the budget that was passed on March 1st. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Are there any questions for Mr. Kennedy? There are no questions. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-10 on emergency?
Also move, Mayor.
Very good. There's a motion on emergency by Mrs. Blankfeld. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Weiss. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, we will take two votes. First is on the suspension of the rules. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl, Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould,
Aye.
Very good. And on the main motion?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl, Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. The motion carries. Next is item B, a motion authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2021 road resurfacing improvement program. Mr. Chuney, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a simple motion requesting permission to go out for bids for the 2021 road program. This is the exact same program that we actually bid last year but never awarded due to the pandemic. In my handout to the council, I show you the prices for each of those streets based on Roniak's bid from last year. The only addition to the project for this year is the county has granted us $45,650 for the material cost to crack, seal, and patch our side of Green Road. So when you add that on to the bids for the streets, I'm projecting about $400,000 project, and $45,650 will be reimbursable from the county. So just requesting permission to go out for bids. Once we have a little bidder, I'll be back at council for an award. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chuney. Are there any questions for Mr. Chuney? Okay, is there any discussion? Is there a motion to authorize the mayor to advertise for bids on the 2021 road resurfacing improvement program?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rock. We have a motion by Mr. Rock to authorize the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2021 road resurfacing improvement program. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Mrs. Pardee. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl, Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. The motion carries. Next is item C, a motion authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the purchase of 2 Kubota utility refuse collection vehicles. Mr. Picorni, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, council. This item is an item where we'd like to purchase 2 Kubota rubbish collection vehicles. These items were both on the 2019 and the 2020, respectively, vehicle replacement schedules. We're now pressed to get these vehicles to keep our residential refuse and recycling collection going. The vehicles should, I estimate, be a cost of about $16,000 each for a total, or I'm sorry, yeah, $16,000 each for a total of $32,000. And I'm respectfully asking authorization to bid these. I will be bringing the bids results back to council in the future for authorization to purchase.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Picorni. Are there any questions for Mr. Picorni? Any comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Berry to authorize the mayor to advertise for bids for the purchase of 2 Kubota utility refuse collection vehicles. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Pardee. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl, Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Mr. Erdl, I don't know if you know, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next is item D, motion authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2021 grass nuisance abatement program. Mr. Picorni, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Mayor. This is a request to go out for bids on our 2021 grass nuisance abatement program, which also includes yard cleanup, waste removal, and leaf collection in some of the yards that the building department finds to be in violation and those that will not comply with their request to clean up. We then do an abatement. Last year, we had approximately 161 abatements, the total cost of about $4,800. This year, I anticipate something similar. We'd like to get this program going so that we're ready at the time that grass cutting needs to be done and when the building department starts to find violations.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Picorni. Are there any questions for Mr. Picorni? Is there a motion to authorize the mayor to advertise for bids for the 2021 grass nuisance abatement program?
So moved,
So
Mayor.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Pardee and a second by Mr. Gould. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Very good. Motion carries. Next is item E, motion authorizing the fire department to apply for grant opportunities related to public safety during fiscal year 2021. Chief Perko, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Each year, the fire department seeks grant funding to enhance the safety of the firefighters or the service delivery to the community. These range from federal, state, local grants, and private nonprofit. Over the last 10 years, fire departments brought in approximately $1 million in grant funding. Last year, thanks to the work of Executive Captain Boylan, we secured over $130,000 in grant funding. Historically, I've typically come to council for approval to apply for various grants and then subsequently come back for your approval to accept them. Last year, with the onset of COVID in the April council meeting of 2020, it was suggested, I believe, by Councilperson Gould to give blanket approval to at least apply for various grants related to safety in the fire department, with the stipulation that I would bring those back for your approval to accept them if we were offered an award. So this motion tonight is to do that for this fiscal year, blanket approval to go ahead and apply for various federal, state, local grants, and then come back to you for the acceptance of those should we be awarded.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Chief Perko. Any questions for Chief Perko?
No, I just, as always, I'm always impressed at the ferocity of how you and both you and our police chief go after these grants and successfully secure them. And that's a big help to the bottom line. So thank you again, Chief.
Sure.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Gould.
I will just echo Councilwoman Blankfeld's sentiments. I am impressed continuously by the creativity and tenacity with which our safety forces go after these grant dollars, especially in these trying times. It is very much appreciated, and those efforts are very much recognized by council. It was because of that I suggested this blanket approval last year, and it's for that reason and those reasons that I will support it this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Gould. Any further commentary? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Very good. We
Second.
have a motion by, I think I heard both Mrs. Berry and Mrs. Blankfeld.
How about Mrs. Berry, and I'll second.
That's great. Thank you. We'll go with Mrs. Berry making the motion, Mrs. Blankfeld making the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, then Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. Next is item F, motion authorizing the fire department to purchase a 2021 Ford Explorer from Liberty Ford for staff use in an amount not to exceed $33,710, and the cost of outfitting equipment from Hall Public Safety not to exceed $6,262.81, and the cost of mobile radio from Chagrin Valley Dispatch not to exceed $3,175.94. Grand total amount not to exceed $43,148.75. Chief Perko, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this is for the direct replacement of one of our existing staff vehicles, a vehicle that we're actually deeming unsafe to drive at this time. It's a 2008 with 240,000 miles on it, with significant mechanical and electrical issues. This was one of the vehicles that was in our capital improvement plan for replacement in 2019 and subsequently in 2020 as well, that we deferred off to this year. This is one of the vehicles that was approved with the $45,000 allocated in our capital improvement fund for the fire department this year. As the mayor indicated, the grand total is $43,148.75, and that is to be fully outfitted. And it's through Liberty Ford, which is honoring the state bid price from Statewide Ford.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief Perko. Any questions for Chief Perko?
No, but I would like to thank the chief for working with council to get the budget to a place where at least we could accommodate the most dire of your needs. Hopefully things will improve and the economy will improve and we'll be able to do more. But your cooperation and your understanding and your professionalism are greatly appreciated, and you should drive this new vehicle in good health.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Blankfeld. Any further commentary or questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Berry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Blankfeld. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next is item G, a motion to hold an executive session immediately following this regular meeting for the purpose of discussing personnel, legal, and/or real estate matters. The administration does have a real estate matter to bring up with council in executive session, particularly with University Square. An update is in order, and we are prepared to provide one. Is there a motion?
Also move. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Erdl, second by Mrs. Blankfeld. Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Very good. We will hold an executive session at the conclusion of the regular portion of the meeting. We now turn to director's reports. First item is finance. Mr. Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to give the council an update on where we are revenue and expense wise, for the first 3 months, January, February, March, that we received distributions from RETA for income tax, we're at a total of $1.8 million. Last year, those first 3 collection periods were a little over $1.7 million. So we're $93,000 ahead of where we were last year. And that increase equates to 5.4%. And again, that's for, if you remember, the collections come in, they're a month behind. So January, February, and March collections were the result of what RETA took in December 2020 and then January and February. Through February 28th, the revenue in the general fund is $2.15 million. Again, that's through the end of February. That represents approximately 21.3% of the annualized revenue estimate for the year. The target after 2 months would be somewhere in the area of 16.7%. But please remember, we got 2 advances from the county on property taxes. We'll have a final settlement from the county tomorrow on the last reconciliation plus all the special assessments. So we'll have a better idea where we're at. But those numbers get received and booked by us at the beginning of the year, so they amortize over the first half. We're still running a little bit ahead of where we projected, particularly in the area of income tax. Again, that final settlement will come in tomorrow. All funds revenue was $2.45 million. That's a receipt ratio of 19.3%. Again, the target rate would be about 16.7%. So similar to the general fund, we are running a little ahead in terms of revenue. Our latest statement at the end of February from the portfolio at Fifth Third was $7,118,882. And expenses through the end of February were $2.1 million in the general fund and $2.47 for all funds. So the expenses there are running a little bit under what we would have thought it would have been for the first 2 months, but we did start the year off slow because of trying to close out 2020. So no surprises thus far. I will get you these reports. I'm working on, there's a reporting issue with the Fifth Third statement that I have somebody looking into. So I didn't want to send that out till I got that resolved. And there's one little snafu in our accounting software for expenses, but I should have all these reports out to everybody by the end of this week. Still waiting for the auditors to finish the 2019 audit. I had communications with the top folks downtown with the state auditors on February 25th. They have advised me that the length of the audit is really a logistical issue on their end. They've continued to maintain there's no issues that we should be concerned about, but I am pushing them to get that wrapped up because we've literally already started compiling all the records to turn over for the 2020 audit. So as soon as I hear something more definitive on that, I'm hoping by the end of the month, I will pass that on. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kennedy? All right, seeing none. Thank you. Director of Law, Mr. McConville.
Thank you, Mayor. I will deliver a report in executive session.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mr. McConville? All right. Public Safety, Chief Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Public Safety, Chief Perko.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, 3 items to report on tonight. One, looking into how we can reestablish our CPR classes with the community. We're talking with our medical control provider and the library to see how we can accommodate this with the highest of COVID safety precautions. So as soon as we can come up with a solution to that, we'll be sure to release that information. 2, we're working now, focusing pretty hard on the reestablishment of the CERT team. We've gathered some information from a survey we put out in the community. We do have a significant interest in that. Met with the safety committee and starting to meet with the county and state representatives to get that ball rolling. And then last, next week, starting March 21st, it's the Severe Weather Awareness Week in Ohio. We'll be posting some items daily on our social media about tornado safety, storms, and preparedness and the like. And then just for your awareness, on Wednesday, the 24th, that is also the statewide tornado drill. So you may be hearing some sirens if you're in a community or nearby a community that tests those. And that is all I have to report.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief Perko. Any questions for Chief Perko? Okay, seeing none, we will then go to Service and Mr. Picorni.
Thank you again, Mayor. A couple items to report on here tonight. Household hazardous waste collection was conducted this past weekend on Friday the 12th and Saturday the 13th. It was quite successful. Our recycling center is full of material right now. We will be delivering that over the next week or so down to Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District to have those materials recycled. The second item is April is yard cleanup month for the city service department. We will have leaf machines back out collecting loose leaves on the tree lawns for the month of April, along with untied brush piles. Once that is completed, then you will need to bag your leaves and tie your brush following the month of April. We hope to start that on April 1st. Last was the cleanup of the tennis courts and reinstallation of nets and windscreens. I just wanted to let council know that those were cleaned up and they're now functioning. Next thing the service department will be working on is getting the pool up and operating. And that is my report.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Picorni. Any questions for Mr. Picorni? All right, very good. Building, Housing, and Community Development. I see Mr. White is on the call. Fred White, Mr. White, do you have any report for us this evening? I do see his phone number. I don't know if he may not have anything. Most of what we had to say was covered in the mayor's report. So, all right, very good. We will then go to City Engineer, Mr. Cheney.
No report this evening, Mayor.
Very good. I do see that Mr. White did just unmute himself. Fred, do you have anything for us? Well, we'll come back to him if he does in fact have something. We will then turn to communications and civic engagement. Mr. Cook.
Good evening, everyone. You recall at the last meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, and then again during my report, we talked about ways to get out more information about the COVID vaccine to residents who may have had trouble. Thankfully, in the last 2 weeks since our last meeting, processes seem to ease up a little bit. There's more vaccine available in Ohio. The Cleveland State event starting on Wednesday should be helpful. I know a lot of people have had success signing up for that. However, it isn't over yet. There are people that are still having trouble. So what we're doing is we've reached out to a group called the Vaccine Queens. And you may have read about them in Cleveland.com or seen them on the local news stations. Basically what they are, they're two women, one in Chagrin Falls, and I forget where the other one is located, but they've teamed up and they spend seemingly 18 hours a day just scouring the internet, trying to figure out, which provider has shots available and encouraging people to sign up. And so we're sharing a lot of their information, but we still have the offer out there to any resident of University Heights that's having trouble either scheduling a shot for themselves or scheduling one for a relative. Give me a call directly or shoot me an email directly, mcook@universityheights.com. And if I can't get you an appointment, I'll work with the Vaccine Queens to get you one. Hopefully this won't be needed because I think the process is getting easier, but if anyone still needs some help, we'll do what we can. No guarantees, obviously, but we'll do what we can.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Was that all? I interrupt you, did I?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mr. Cook? All right, seeing that, we will then move on to economic development. Mrs. Drucker.
Thank you. We do need to schedule an Economic Development Committee meeting to review and repost the RFP for the comprehensive zoning code. So, and I know I had emailed Councilman Rock that anytime after the 19th, because that will be after I have a couple meetings so that I could share the information with the committee. And then the rest of my report will be in executive session as well.
Thank you for the reminder, Ms. Drucker. I'm good with Kelly to poll the members.
Yeah, anytime after the 19th, because that'll be my last meeting. That's when my last meeting is scheduled.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Drucker. Any questions, Mrs. Drucker? Okay, very good. We will now circle back to building department. Mr. White, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I finally got my phone unmuted properly. Thank you, Council. Yes, I want to thank the city for having Safe Built come in and run their building department. Every city needs a good running building department. And, as the mayor said, we now have a full-time permit tech there, answering phones, taking care of paperwork 40 hours a week. Myself, I will be in the city physically Monday and Wednesday, 4 to 5 hours, but I will give out my cell phone and email so they can contact me any time of the day, 40 hours a week. As because of COVID, the building department's closed to the public, and we are receiving permits via email and regular mail. So it is taking a little bit more time to process the permits that are coming in. But we're working hard and, returning all the emails, returning all the phone calls, and getting the permits that are coming in processed. I believe that would be the end of my report. I don't have anything for housing or development. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mr. White. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. White? I know this is his first time here, so there may be some questions. No, perhaps not this time. All right, very good. Well, Mr. White, thank you for being here. Welcome to the city.
Thank you, Mayor.
We will now turn to the reports of standing committees, building and housing. Mrs. Blankfeld.
Thank you, Mayor. Building and Housing Committee will have a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, March 24th at 7 for further review and consideration of codified ordinance section 1280.10 regarding rental registration. And that is all I have for this evening.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Community outreach, Mrs. Party.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Economic development, Mr. Rock.
Yes, the meeting we were supposed to have last week, we ended up canceling because there was one respondent to our RFP. So we're going out for rebid, as Ms. Drucker was talking about. We will have another meeting to review the updated RFP soon. So Kelly, I'll get with you to poll our members for any time after the 19th. I'll talk to you tomorrow about that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Rock. Finance, Mrs. Weiss.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There will be a strategic planning committee tomorrow at 7 p.m. And then in addition, once the federal funds flow through the state to the city, we will schedule a finance committee meeting, and I'll schedule that with the mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Recreation, Mr. Erdl.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Erdl. Safety, Mrs. Berry.
The safety committee met on March the 8th. Mostly we talked about in our meeting about both the fire and the police department becoming certified through various, through the county and the state. And as the certification process goes on, we will be bringing a status report of where they are.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Next then is service facilities, Mr. Gould.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been working with Tom Sutton to find a time that would be available to come in and start the process of kind of having a roundtable with members of council and the administration. We had proposed, I think, a doodle poll of this Wednesday, but I don't think that works for all. So we're going to try to find a time that everyone can join to start the process of hashing out the details of the solid waste survey that will be sent out to all households in the city. I've also been working with Mike Cook to discuss the logistics of mailing out those items and anticipate returning to council with a proposal for the mailing of the surveys, but didn't want to further delay the process of creating the survey while we figured out the logistics of mailing it. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gould. Committee of the Whole, Mrs. Weiss.
Thank you. No report, Mayor.
Yeah, very good. We are now at the conclusion of the regular portion of the meeting. There was a motion to go into executive session, which we will do imminently. I do not anticipate any further business will be conducted when we return from executive session other than an adjournment of the meeting. Our next regular meeting will be the first Monday of April, which I believe is April 5th. And we'll be back then. You are welcome to stick around through the executive session. I don't think you'll be missing anything if you leave now. You are, of course, welcome to stay. If you're not here when we come back, be well and be safe, and we'll see you back the first Monday of April. And if we can now go ahead and set up the executive session, we'll do that here imminently. Cal, I don't have controls for a breakout room. Do you have that?
I need you co-host. Do you need to be host? Oh, that's right. You need to be host to do that. Okay, let me pause the meeting. I will make you host. Okay, you are now host.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Breakout rooms. Okay, create one breakout room. Assign manually. All right. Okay. All right. right, there now is an invitation to go to the breakout room. Feel free to see us over there. Is there anybody I missed? I don't think so. All right, I'm going to head over there now too.
Okay, Kelly.
Yes. Hey.
Hey, I got booted from the other the executive session. Are you able to throw me back in there, or are you not able to do that?
I'm not able to. I'll text the mayor.
Thanks.
Hopefully he'll pull you over soon.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send it to Michelle too, just in case.
Here I go.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Mayor, we'll need a motion to resume regular session and then the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, you're muted.
All right, is there a motion to return to regular session?
So moved.
Very good. Motion by Mrs. Pardee. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Erdl. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl. You're muted.
Aye.
Mr. Rott,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, is there a motion to return to is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Weiss. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mrs. Pardee. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Erdl,
Aye.
Mr. Rott,
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. Our next regular meeting is April 5, 2021, unless we call a special meeting before then. Well, then we are adjourned. Everyone be well and be safe. Have a
Good
good
night, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Just us. All right.
Have
How you
a
doing,
good
Claire?
night. Bye-bye. Thank